Hey everybody, my name is Cynthia, this is Tiny Tech Talks, and today I want to show you how to make a animated card, but actually make sure that it also works on mobile, and we do have a little bit of a tweak so that it also kind of works a little bit better with people that use keyboard navigation. So I came across this card design a while back on codepen, and except for like the scaling on it, I actually do kind of like it, although I would keep the text a little bit smaller. So I went into Oxygen and I actually made my own version of this. However, with the original one, I had some problems, and that is if people are on mobile devices, they will not have this hover effect. I went ahead and I actually made sure that in my version, whenever somebody is on a touch device, it actually just shows it. It doesn't get animated, but the text is always visible. And on top of that, I also make sure that when people are using keyboard navigation, that it actually like shows up and disappears whenever they use the tab key. So let's jump into Oxygen and I'll show you how I made sure that all of this works. Alright, so for the sake of this video, I already went ahead and I kind of add the structure. So I added a section, then I added a div and gave it a class of block card. Then we have an image, which is our block card image. Then I have this content block. So a block card content class was put on this. And on inside I have a heading, which I also gave a class of block card title. We have a text field, so block card text, and there's this button that I styled using Automatic.css, which is a framework. However, you can just go ahead and put a custom class on this and style it however you want. Now, as you can see, we do need to do a bunch of styling to get to this card. So let's start off with our block card. Now we want to have this image kind of behave like a background image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside of my card and go to layout. I'm going to set this to relative because I want to set my image to layout absolute so that it can act as a background. Let's do a z index of -1 so that the text is in front of it. Now, as you can see, let's also set this to top and left just to be sure. But as you can see, like, first of all, my image is not spanning the entire div, and it's also going out of sight of my card. So what I want to do is go back to my block card and go into layout, overflow, hidden. So that solves one problem. And next off, what I want to do is set my image to have a width of 100% and a height of 100%. But as you can see, not everything, like my image is like completely dragged now. So first off, let's set this to medium. I think, okay, let's keep it on large for now. We might have to change the size as well. But as you can see, it's now like kind of like really stretched and weird. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go on my image, custom CSS, and I'm gonna use the object fit cover to make sure that it actually does not get squished, and it kind of behaves like a background image now. So that's already looking a lot better. So what I want to do next is actually I want to add some space on top of my text, just like we have here. So I'm going to go to my card again, and let's go advanced, size and spacing, and let's add some padding. I'm going to use rems for this. Let's put 10 rems on it. That is looking better. And what I also want to do is I'm going to set the text color to white. Alright, so next up, what I'm gonna do is let's also give it these like rounded corners. So advanced, borders, border radius. Let's go with rems here as well. That might be way too much. Let's go with something like 1 rem. Okay, perfect. Now as you can see, like my text is really squished against the sides. So let's go into our content, wrapper, I guess you can call it. And let's add some padding all around. So I'm gonna go for, well, let's do 2. I think, yeah, let's try 3 rems. Maybe 2 would be, I think 2 would be fine. Perfect. Now, as you can see, this card is like really stretched out, and that's because my content is quite long. So instead of actually setting like a max width on my card, I'm gonna do something a little bit different. Now, also, if I have multiple of these cards and the text will be like, one text can have like 2 sentences which are shorter, and then other ones can have like a big text. Now, to kind of like fix a problem of having like longer and shorter texts, I'm actually going to use a trick with line clamp. Now, what does line clamp do? It cuts off basically the amount of lines you want. So if you say, you know, get a line clamp of 3, it's going to show you 3 lines of text. So let's actually grab this and go into my text field. Let's go to custom CSS and let's paste this in. And of course, not a lot has changed because, you know, I still only have 2 lines to show. So what I'm going to do next to having this line clamp is I'm going to set a max width on here as well. And let's go with 30 characters. Okay, maybe 40 will be fine as well. All right, so let's go with 40 characters. And as you can see now, it's still hard to read, but basically now I have 3 lines, and you can see that the little dots that indicate that there's text missing. But this kind of like keeps it in line. If you want to read on more on this line clamp, CSS Tricks has a nice article on it. But let's continue with our tutorial. So I'm gonna also put on just a little bit of margin on the bottom here. So let's go with rems. Let's do maybe 2. All right. Now also this is an H1. Let's change that to an H3. So basically this looks really nice, but we still have this problem as to where the text is very hard to read. So let's go ahead and go inside our content wrapper div, and we're gonna actually put a background on here. So I'm gonna use a gradient, and actually want to do 3. So I'm gonna start off with my darkest color, and then I want to go to a slightly more transparent version, and then lastly I want to go even lighter. Now let's play around with this part a little bit. Let's actually see. This is not what I want to do. Let's go with percentages. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm kind of like trying to have like a darker part and then have it really go light at this point. So let's also set this to percentages, and let's see if we play around with it, what will happen. So basically what I want to do is like still behind the title, something like that will do. You can tweak it a little bit, that's fine. But basically it now goes like into 2 degrees. So you have 1 and then 2, and then it goes lighter from here. So that looks fine. Although, let's actually go back to that gradient for a second, because I actually want to have this one go full transparent. Right. So we have this like nice little transition, and all of the text is still, or at least much more readable. Do check if it's like readable enough in terms of accessibility. But for now, I'm just gonna leave it here, and let's see what else do I want to do. Let's put in this line. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my text, to my heading, and I'm gonna use the pseudo element after. So let's go ahead and go to state. Well, actually no, before we go there, actually let's go to advanced layout, and let's set that to relative, and then go to our after part, and then what I want to do is the following. So let's go into, first off, let's go into size and spacing. Let's set that height to like 4 pixels. Let's set my width to 100%. Then let's also go ahead and go inside of our background because we don't see anything. So let's set a background color, position to absolute, and then let's set it to top 0, not top 0. I want to go left 0 and button 0 so that it's positioned underneath our title. That actually looked good, but as you can see in my example, I have this line coming in on hover. So that means that now that the styling is fine, I actually have to go back for a second and set that width to 0 when we are not hovering. So we're gonna change this back later on hover. So let's start with like animating. And for that, I'm actually going to use a CSS style sheet, but it's pretty straightforward. So let's go into our style sheet. All right, so I have this newly created style sheet. If you don't know how to do it, just go into Manage Style Sheets, add a style sheet, give it a name, and you will have an empty style sheet. Now I can hear you thinking like, why don't you just go ahead and use, if we just use this like hover state that is inside of Oxygen. And the reason for this is that we are going to use a media query called hover. If you want to read up on it, then go ahead. But basically, as you can see right here, if we put this to hover, like everything inside of that media query is only going to happen when the primary input mechanism can conveniently hover over elements. And that's what we want, we only want to have this hover animation whenever the device, like the primary input mechanism, is something like a mouse or something that actually allows a convenient way of hovering over elements. So basically what we are going to do is we're going to go into that style sheet and we're going to use that media query. So add media, hover, and we're going to put everything that has to do with the hover inside of here. First thing I want to do is go to block card content is what we called it. And if we're not hovering and we can hover on this device, what I want to do is set our content to go down. So let's do transform and let's go translate. We need the y-axis, and this is kind of like a guessing game, but since we like made sure that all of our text will be pretty much equal size due to the line clamp, it's always going to be like 3 or 4 lines. I think we said 3 lines of text, so this should work on every duplicate of this card. This looks about right, I guess. So next thing we want to do is, of course, if I hover this, I want to have it show up. Whenever I hover my card, I want my block card content to go back up. So let's do that. So let's go block card hover, not hover. And then I want to actually gonna grab this part because we basically need this part. And I want to translate that back to y. So now if I translate y, let's save this for a second. Let's actually go to the front end because this is like hovering inside of the editor is usually quite difficult. So let's see, why is this not working? Dot block card. Oh, block card. Make sure you don't make typos because that will mess up things. So let's refresh. And there we go. So now whenever I hover, I have this jump from like minus 72% or 72% down to 0. Of course, this is not really nice, so let's actually put a transition on this as well, so it's a little bit more smooth. So let's go to transition. Let's do all 300 milliseconds ease. Let's do ease in out. And let's see. There we go. It looks a lot smoother now. Also, the glitching is Oxygen. Like, it does not glitch on the front end. It's because of the way we positioned the image inside of the editor that it sometimes like does this weird glitchy thing. It's because it's putting that image, because we are hovering on that element inside of the editor. So it's not broken, it's just how Oxygen works. So alright, we have this. We do want to have that line come in, so let's go ahead and let's get that. So again, on our block card hover, right, when we hover our card, what we want to do is go to, let's actually target our blog card underscore title, and then we need our after element. So on hover, yep, we want that to go back to a width of 100%. So again, let's actually save this and view this on the front end. So there it is. Of course, it's also just like there. So let's animate it a little bit as well. So what I am gonna do is I'm actually gonna go ahead and take this part. Let's put it here. And also put a transition on this. So there we go. And let's save this and let's see if that worked. Yeah, there we go. So this all now seems to work. And let's actually check how it behaves whenever I am on a touch device. So if I take this off, we are on a non-touch device. And then let's simulate when we are on like a touch device, we have this, but as you can see, my line is not showing up. Let's actually see how we can fix this. Let's think about this. Basically, because we have this width set to 100, we're actually gonna need to do this a little bit different. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set that width right here to 0. So whenever we're on a touch device, it should be 0. And then I'm actually going to go back in to my text field right here. And instead of setting it to have a width, well, we actually need to go to our after, oh, wrong element. We have to go to our of the pseudo element right here and actually set this to, like we did before, we need this to be 100. So now it's only 0 whenever we are on a hover capable device, if you want to call it that way. And if we're not, it's going to be visible. Let's try this out. All right, let's actually close this. So basically now we are on a hover device. It's still working. Let's go inspect. It's a touch device now. And as you can see, that line is there. So that is actually what we want. So basically now we have a mobile ready version and an animated part on hover. But now the last thing to fix is the keyboard navigation, because as you can see, whenever I tap in, it's moving this, it's acting very weird. Like it's moving the picture up, and whenever I unfocus, it doesn't go back. So it looks really weird now, and it only goes back if I actually hover over it. So to do that, we're actually going to use a different technique, and that's called focus within. So whenever we focus within anything inside of this card, that's when we're going to do a few things. So I'm going to go back to my style sheet, and we're going to change up a few things. So basically what we want to do is, well, let's start with our content. Okay, so on this hover dot block content, we're actually going to add an extra line. So whenever this dot block card, and then we're going to use that focus within. Let's see if we didn't make a typo. Focus within. Okay, that looks good. And then use that same card content. We are gonna transform or translate this to 0. So that's that part. Let's actually see what we have now, if there's any difference. So let's make sure this is refresh. Actually, let's close the inspector. So as you can see now, it's working better, and like if I go out of the focus, it is at least disappearing. But as you can see, it still kind of has this problem with this image that seems to move. So to fix that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually let's grab this part again, and we're gonna set that transition duration that we have, because the transition is still kind of messing it up. So we're gonna go transition duration and set that to 0 milliseconds. So let's go ahead and save, go back to our front end because it's much easier to check here, and let's see, that seems to work now. So basically it works except for our line. So as you can see, our line is not animating in, so we also have to go and fix that. So to do that, we're gonna basically go inside of our hover. Let's actually, what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab this again, and we're also gonna add this focus within dot cart title after, because this is what we are targeting here. There we go. Let's save this, and then we also wanna check this on the front end. So let's see now, if I tap, oh, there we go, and go out, go back in, go back out. So now as you can see, I can like navigate with my keys. Let's see if I can get back there. Yeah, so I can use the tab to like focus on this element, and it will still work. So people that are using keyboard navigation will also be able to see this effect and use it correctly without getting this weird shift in that image. Now you have a mobile proof animating card. If you like this tutorial, then feel free to subscribe and hit that bell if you want to get notified whenever I put out a new video. And I just want to thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and I will see you in another video.